Jumping right into last night's game, this was not really an anticipating game. I think that anybody was really looking forward to watching too. I know they had some plans on actually flexing it out, which they probably should have, but they had that Simpson version broadcast. Of course, I didn't watch that broadcast, but I did see some of the clips. I see how they've done some of that with Nickelodeon. I think they're trying to engage other users, but I think they should stray away from doing any kind of broadcast like that. But anyways, back to the game. There was only a couple of things I really wanted to look at when watching this game, and the big thing was is would Dallas be able to capitalize on Cincinnati's terrible defense? And what I was thinking was going to happen was they would be able to stop the run. I figured, they were able to earlier in the season be able to kind of limit Derrick Henry whenever they played the Ravens. Surprisingly, this wasn't the case at all. Rico Dowdle had a pretty successful game on the ground for the most part. Dallas was able to, on a couple of drives, be able to kind of go up and down the field with ease. And then it just goes back to the Bengals. It just feels like no matter what Joe Burrow could do, he's just a victim of a bad situation. They haven't put any pieces in place on the defense. They just look like they're getting dog walked out there. And then Dallas did an all right job limiting, I think, Bengals offense. I figured this would be a little bit of a high-scoring matchup, but I thought that Cincinnati would be able to be a little bit more effective. Of course, there was when the drive when Joe Burrow was going down, and I think he was getting close to the red zone, and then he was throwing that pass to Chase. That was a little bit high. Ended up getting, picked off by Malik Hooker. A couple of things didn't go their way, but overall, of course, Chase dominated. They definitely have some weapons. Chase Brown is a really good inclusion. I think they got him in the third round. He's becoming a great premier back. I think that was the plan all along with the Bengals. I don't think they really saw Zach Moss as being their feature back the whole year, but I think they were just waiting for Chase Brown to kind of click, and it seems like he has. And the protection could have been a little bit better for the Bengals, but overall, they have Higgins, they have Chase, they have Gesicki. Now they have Chase Brown, who's a dual threat back. You can get him out of the backfield. I think every game he's had the past couple of weeks, he's getting anywhere from feels like 5 to 8 catches, close to 10 targets a game. Joe Burrow obviously went to Jamar Chase multiple times during the game. It seemed like he was the only guy he was really eyeing down. And I don't blame him. I thought Jamar Chase would be a little bit more limited in this game, though. I do think Dallas's secondary is a formidable unit. I don't think their defense as a whole, but when they have Lawrence and then Micah Parsons healthy and they're able to get a decent pass rush, I think they definitely have some pieces in the back end that's able to, keep up and give good coverage. But it didn't seem like the case last night. Joe Burrow was able to pretty much throw at will to Chase whenever he wanted to, and then even a couple big plays to Higgins and Gesicki. But overall, it's about what the Bengals offense I thought would look like. I was just kind of surprised that, Cooper Rush and the Cowboys were actually able to keep some sort of pace with them throughout the game. And then, of course, when, it seems like they get a really good opportunity, to force a punt from the Bengals with plenty of time to go against that defense and maybe set up a field goal or get a touchdown to win the game. And then, as everybody's seen, they have the punt block, and then, of course, the ball kind of starts flying in the air, so it still gets a little bit of air. And here's the key piece to that is if it's blocked and it doesn't reach past the line of scrimmage, then that is not a point where what happened last night would have been able to happen, essentially where, the Cowboys player touches it and then the ball goes loose, and then Cincinnati, of course, recovers that. But the key piece of that was the fact that it went past the line of scrimmage. And really, it's such a low football IQ play by that guy. And I understand that even a lot of the starters, there's a lot of people that maybe don't play as much special teams or they're not a part of the special teams meetings. But this is really something that they teach you if you've ever been on any sort of punt return unit. You have clear instructions, and they even have codes to yell out to stay as far away from the ball as you possibly can. Now, I understand with kind of the spin it took and where it ended up, like why something like that could happen. But I mean, the guy just looks at it and tries to caress it. And then, of course, he just misses it, and the Bengals are able to get on the ball. And then from there, the momentum just clearly shifts. They're able to hit Chase. Once he breaks that defender, he's not getting caught, and he goes and scores the game. I do feel that a lot of other players can be accountable on the Cowboys for what happened in the game and the results ultimately. But that's just a play you just can't make. I mean, high school football players, that's one of the first things you learn is to don't touch the fucking ball when it's punted. So essentially that loses them the game. Not saying that I'm really confident that, Dallas would have been able to drive down, but then you're talking about the potential of getting a field goal, and they have one of the best kickers in the league who seems like he routinely hit 60-yarders, and then you just end up getting no chance. And I did see a lot of commentary about what Chase should have done when he caught that ball. They're saying it was selfish to, just take it in the end zone and essentially leave Dallas time to go and respond. Well, here's the thing is I do understand that in a certain sense, but it's fucking Cooper Rush and the Cowboys. I get that the defense is very vulnerable. It seems like everybody's taking advantage of him. But still, it's not like you're giving Patrick Mahomes the ball back down 7. And I've always been under the theory, and it kind of stands for most cases, unless you are playing Patrick Mahomes. It seems like that's the only case is if you have a chance to take every second you can off the clock before you score and give the ball back to the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, then that's a situation where I think you do that. Anybody else that you're playing, get the points, because you're talking about, okay, maybe he goes down, maybe he kneels down at the 2 or 3 yard line. Maybe they run a couple plays to burn some time. There's no guarantee that you're going to end up even getting into the end zone. And then maybe you burn out the clock, with 3 seconds left to kick. And we've seen it all season. It seems like it doesn't even matter what the field goal length is. We're seeing bad snaps. We're seeing, kickers just absolutely shank it, hit it off crossbars. So I think in that situation, especially knowing the opponent that you're going up against, I see no issue at all with, Chase taking that in for the score. It is interesting. I still believe, if I'm not wrong, the Bengals are completely out of the race. Or if they aren't, then they have to have a hell of a miracle to be able for things to fall their way. What I kind of thought was interesting is Dallas started kind of putting together a couple good surprising wins, obviously the one at Washington. And looking at the record, it seemed like they were a dumpster fire from the beginning, and, they were looking at a top 10 pick in the draft. But I think, when they came out and, going 5-7, and then with the remaining schedule and an opportunity with Washington, there is a way that they maybe could have got to, a 10-7 record, maybe held a tiebreaker or two. Again, this is a long shot, but they didn't seem as broken before. Well, now clearly after this game, Dallas is cooked. You could see the frustration in their players. The poor guy that, fucked up on the punt. You can see Micah Parsons visibly frustrated with everything that's going on. And then, of course, you have the big injury to DeMarvion Overshown, which couldn't be further from the worst possible thing for them to happen in this game, right? You lose the game, that's one thing. They lost such a key player. And then I think it came out that it's ACL, MCL, and PCL. And they're already talking about not only him missing, obviously, the rest of the season, but now we're talking about you may miss him for all of next year, too. and he's been a big bright spot on that defense. And Dallas has had the ability to find some of these players, and I think they got him in the second round. And he missed his first year with an ACL tear. He's had some injury history before, but Dallas has been really good at getting some of these key players in later rounds, especially on their defense. And then all of the sudden you have one of your bright spots of your defense, that's really coming into his own, missed his rookie year. Now we're talking about he misses the rest of this year. He's completely out possibly for next year, and it's just not good. I just don't see a situation where going into next year that the Cowboys are going to be in a very good spot at all. I mean, I see you have the Eagles, obviously, who Howie Roseman has done an amazing job of being able to put together a good core group of, young rookie talent, some good players that are either just right in their prime or just kind of coming out of the outside of their prime. And then you have the Commanders. So they get Jaden Daniels. They have Terry McLaurin. I think they really focus on a couple of pieces on defense. And I think Washington's going to be a force next year. So then you start to look at what would Dallas have to do to get back into competing. They need to address running back. I don't know, maybe Rico Dowdle continues stepping up as that number one back and being a good option for them. But if anything, I mean, they need to find some depth behind him, right? And their offensive line is kind of plagued by some injuries, but they have a lot of core guys that are getting a little bit older. Defense, you have some good pieces, but I think you just need to address the need at running back. I think you need to get, Dak next year, another weapon. To even have a chance. The whole narrative that's been pounded with Jerry Jones and this whole all-in thing is just clearly not been the case, and it's just become a disaster. So, and they're not really known for making big splash moves in free agency, and at this point we don't even know if they keep Mike McCarthy. So a couple of weeks ago you're talking about there's no way in hell Mike McCarthy makes it to the end of the season. Well, Jerry Jones says, hey, we're not in the business of firing anybody during the season. And then all of a sudden it's kind of turning around and we're thinking, okay, maybe they do, keep Mike McCarthy. I think Bill Belichick was in play a little bit on that team. I'm not sure if there's been any preliminary conversations regarding that. But now it looks like he's going to go to UNC. You have Ben Johnson, looks like he's eyeing the Bears job. You just have a big amount of openings, so it actually might be in Dallas's best interest to keep Mike McCarthy another year. Besides this year, I think the past 2 years have been 12-4 records, or 12-5, 12-win seasons. They've been able to get into the playoffs. It just seems like they can't get past that. But right now they just kind of look like they're crumbling. We don't even know if that's something they could even get back to, let alone be competitive in the playoffs. And then when it comes to the Bengals, I'm not really sure what they're going to do. The bright spot on their defense is the fact that they have Trey Hendrickson, who's leading the league in sacks. But outside of that, they need to address a lot on that defense. And I think it came up for T. Higgins' contract. I think they asked Joe Burrow, and it sounds like he's pretty confident that they're going to find a way to – they still have to pay Chase, and then we're talking about extending T. Higgins as well. But I just don't see how you do that. I understand they are going to do ultimately what Joe Burrow wants to be happy, and he is your guy that you build around, so that makes sense. But, I mean, when we're talking about you're going to almost have to pay Jamar Chase, I think you're going to get close to $40 million a year. And then what are they going to pay Chase? T. Higgins. Is that something where he's going to command $25 million? Is he going to be getting a $30 million deal like some of these other wide receivers? I think they work something out closer to $20 to $25 million. But, I mean, still you're allocating a lot of resources to a position where I feel you have a good shot of, there's people finding these receivers late in the draft. It seems like it's easier now to find one of these top receivers, and then it's clear that it's not as easy to find a top corner. I feel like they need to address their secondary, um, for them to be successful. Because at this point, you can surround Joe Burrow with all the weapons you want, and that defense is just killing them.